drawing a unit circle here with the center at 0, and the circle is going to hit at 1 on all the axes here. That's what makes it a unit circle. And my high school math teacher would be horrified at the bad quality of that circle. So let me just first real quick just draw in a couple things. So this is going to be 0, 90 degrees, 180, 270, and then we land back at 360 here. 0 and 360 are considered the same angle for the purpose of trig functions. What I want to talk to you about right now is the coordinates of the reference angles. So in the last video, we talked about the reference angles in the first quadrant of the unit circle, which were 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. We really need to just drum those three angles into our heads. And we also talked about the fact that we could convert them to radians. We talked about why 360 is equal to 2 pi, and then we broke down all the angles in the first quadrant. And when we did that, we got pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3. And my advice to you in the first video was to just memorize these. But if you want to do the calculation in your head each time by breaking 2 pi into smaller pieces, that works also. Just be careful if you're doing that type of calculation when you're under stress that you don't make a mistake. That's why memorization is really the better way to go when it comes to stressful situations like tests. So what I'm doing right now is I'm drawing a right triangle to our 30-degree angle. So that makes this angle in here the 30 degrees. And what we're talking about right now is the coordinates on the unit circle for the 30-degree angle. Again, this is another situation where memorization is going to be your friend because it's just faster. But the first time you think about it, you're going to want to go all the way through with the whole thought process. So this is how it works. This is where the trig functions come in. So if I want to figure out this coordinate, what we're going to have here, instead of the 30 degrees, is an x and a y. So my x and my y. And the x coordinate for this point right here is going to be this distance away from 0, right here. So whatever this distance is right here is going to be my x. And then my y coordinate is going to go up from the 0 up to here. And this is where my y coordinate is going to be, whatever that value is, right here. And if you look, the length of this line right here and the length of this side on the triangle are the same thing. So that's why we say this side of the triangle is equal to y. If you have any questions about that one thing right there, because you got to get that, and then everything else is easy. So if this is confusing, what I just said, send me an email. Now, let's just call this theta. We know theta is equal to 30 degrees. And this is where our trig functions come in handy. So I want to know what this opposite side is here. So remember, SOHCAHTOA. And we want opposite. So there. And we know the length of this side here because this is the radius. So that's equal to 1. So since we know this length, we're going to use the one that uses the hypotenuse and not the adjacent because we don't know what the length of the adjacent is. So SOHCAHTOA, well, that's sine of theta is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. Well, sine of 30 is going to be equal to opposite, which is y, over 1. And if I rearrange this little math equation I just wrote using SOHCAHTOA by doing cross multiplication, in order to do cross multiplication, we got to turn that into a fraction, and then we can multiply across the equal sign like that. And we get sine over 30 is equal to y. What I just found out is that the y coordinate is sine over 30, or sine of 30, excuse me. If that doesn't blow your mind, then as Sal would say, you have no emotion. There's something about just that right there, that realization, that I find incredibly exciting, which is why I'm a math teacher. So you can probably anticipate if y is going to be sine, what do you suppose x is going to be? Cosine, right? So let's take a look and just make sure that we're thinking straight. So let's do this math again. So once again, this time I've already found out what my y is. Now I need to find out what my x is equal to. Well, if I don't know x, but I know my hypotenuse, then I want, for this angle here, I want adjacent over hypotenuse, and that's going to be this one here. So cosine of theta, just remembering the formula here, is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. And then you fill in what you know. So we know cosine of 30 is equal to x over 1. And we come back to the exact same conditions under which we solved for y. In order to use cross multiplication, you have to have a fraction on both sides. Then you can do the cross multiplication. And you get cosine of 30 on the left and x on the right. So when we say the coordinates of the points on a unit circle are cosine for x and sine for y, this is where we get that saying. In this case, it's cosine of 30 because we know what the angle is. But if we didn't know what the angle was, we could just say, generally speaking, that it's going to be cosine theta, sine theta. And that's the big idea that we need to take away from this video before we can go on to memorizing all of the angles in the first quadrant and what their coordinates are, and then all the way around the unit circle. So I'm going to stop there for this video. Thank you for watching.